Hey guys, this is Frozen Jesus here, and welcome back to another video. And with the release of Fast X in theaters, and with me reviewing all the Fast and Furious movies from worst to best, it's time for me to rank all 11 Fast and Furious movies from worst to best. Now, if you know, guys, I'm a huge Fast and Furious defender. This and current day MCU are the most overhated franchises, the most underrated franchises, in my opinion. Yeah, I know that. Yeah, this was never one of my favorite franchises. I don't think this will ever be my one among my favorite franchises. There are far better franchises out there. I will say this is easily this is in my top 15 favorite franchises of all time. Really huge fan of this film. This is a film that never takes itself way too seriously. But if it depends. But it's not supposed to take yourself way too seriously. To make a good Fast and Furious movie, you need it to be entertaining. You need it to be enjoyable. You need good action. You need characters to care about. And also, good plot may not be required. In my opinion, I mean, well, whatever. I mean, if your movie if your movie is not entertaining, then it's a big no for me. Like if your movie takes itself way too seriously, then it's a big no. Let's see which franchise, which of these films is a total dud, and which ones are my favorites. Now, there are no 10 out of 10 Fast and Furious movies. Don't get me wrong. All of them have its flaws. Even the best ones are flawed. But I mean, maybe someday there could be a 10 out of 10 Fast and Furious movie. I hope so. But for now, let's talk about what we have. Without further ado, if you want to know my ranking of the franchise, then just keep watching. At number 11, the worst Fast and Furious movie, Fast and Furious Tokyo Drift. Yawn. What is this movie? My god, why? Tokyo Drift is so boring. Yeah. This movie literally takes itself way too seriously. It's so slow. There's barely any car action in this. Now the car action, the cool looking cars and Han are the only good things about this film. Everything else just sucks balls. And this is the only film in the franchise I hate so much. That I think is that this is the only film in the franchise I gave a rant to, and I stand by that rant. Yeah, it's boring. It's not enjoyable. It's not entertaining. Most of the characters I don't care about. Also, I will say that Neela is Neela was kind of a decent character. One of the better things about the film. So the more I think about it, I actually like Neela now a lot more now. Her and she and Han are pretty much the only good characters in this movie. But this movie has a bad story, a very stupid story that takes itself very seriously. I guess it's not entertaining. It's slow, boring, and even the main character, honestly, Han should have been the main character, not Sean, because Sean is not significant to this franchise in the slightest. While Han has became one of the main characters in the franchise. So what's the point of Sean being in this one? Sean being this one, and honestly, I wish Gal Gadot was in this movie as well. Maybe I would have appreciated this movie more if they put Gal Gadot in it. Yeah. Yeah, this movie, Bobby God's a total dud. And speaking of Han being the main character, I pitched my own idea on Instagram called Fast and Furious Presents Han and Giselle, where it's a Han and Giselle team up movie where they both get their time to shine. And also Elle from F9 is going to be in it. I would have Elle in it as well. And yeah, but instead we get this bore fest. I mean, my idea would have been way better than this. In fact, also, where the hell is Dom, Brian, Letty, and yeah, despite Dom's cameo at the end, yeah, where are they? Yeah, this movie felt more like a spin-off than a film that's actually canon to the franchise. The only reason it's canon is because of the ending. That set up Furious 7. Coming number 9, no, coming at number 10 is Too Fast, Too Furious, or I like to call it Too Slow, Too Boring. I was way too generous in my initial review, giving it a 5 out of 10. Now I would give this movie a 4 out of 10. It's a bad movie. Yeah, sure, there's some really enjoyable racing scenes. I like the fact that Brian is in it. And Roman was a really good character in this one. But there's not much to like about this film besides what I mentioned. It's not a disaster of a movie. It's just a snooze fest. I didn't care about the plot. I didn't care about the plot. I didn't care about the supporting characters. Like, I did not like Tej in this one. Tej looks so weird and different. Like, what's with this fake ass wig in this one? This movie literally utilizes its female characters. The main female character is so boring, and I don't even remember her name. And the villain in this movie is probably the most forgettable villain in this franchise. So yeah, who cares about this movie anyway? Couldn't care less. Yeah, this movie gets worse the more I think about it. Yeah, and coming number nine. Oh boy, this is gonna shock you all that this movie is really low on the list. The Fast and the Furious. Yeah, I know. I'm gonna get hate from fans saying that, oh, how could they put the movie that started all in the bottom? It's one of the better films in the franchise. Well, yes, it is one of the better films in the franchise. But at the same time, I don't think it's a great movie. It's actually good though. Don't get me wrong. It's a good movie, and these nine films in the franchise are good. But the reason why this is one of the weaker films in the franchise to me is that it's just one of the most confusing. This is one of the most confusing, hard to follow plots in the entire franchise, and it's really hard to follow. And yeah, hard to follow, and also the villain is really forgettable. Like another extremely forgettable villain, bottom tier, and I don't know what else is there to say. But I will say, as a franchise starter, this movie is really good. I really enjoy the race scenes. The race scenes are really good. I like the action scenes as well. Like the fact that this movie started from ground zero, it is stupid. They do a lot of stupid things with street racing, but I mean, this franchise is meant to be about street racing. Even though I think this franchise gets better, and there are better films than this movie, this is still a really solid start of the franchise. Coming number eight is Fast and Furious 4, one of the more underrated films in the franchise. A film that I personally don't get the hate for. Yeah, now I will say I personally call it Fast and Furious 4 is because I'm not a fan of the title Fast and Furious. It sounds like a reboot of the franchise or something. But I mean, this movie doesn't deserve any of the hate it gets. Really, at 29%? I mean, it's lower than Tokyo Drift. Really? I disagree big time. I think this movie should have been like around in the 70s. So Tokyo Drift was so bad that this franchise really needed needed a boost. I'm sure you know what I mean. Really like something better. And to me personally, Fast and Furious 4 is probably the biggest surprise of 2009. Like the fact that, I mean, I wouldn't have looked forward to this movie after what's happened with Tokyo Drift, but then this movie will have surprised me after watching it. Yeah. Now by far the best thing about this movie is the introduction of my favorite Fast and Furious character, Gal Gadot's Giselle. Best character in the franchise for me. But everything else besides her is really enjoyable. Yeah, sure, the story is really messy and convoluted, and it makes no sense. I mean, why would they just inform why would the lady just be revealed to be dead through a phone call? That is just so exposition heavy, like now, and takes away any emotional weight of this movie. But the villain is okay, I guess. The villain is average, not a bad villain, but not a good villain either. It's just average, but yeah, this movie pretty much got the franchise back on track. It felt like a Fast and Furious movie once again. The main team is back, and this movie has really good action scenes. And yeah, would I rewatch the movie again? I don't know, but unlike other people, I was not bored watching this movie at all. I thought it was really enjoyable. Coming number seven is F9. Now we're getting into the modern era of Fast and Furious because you know the modern era is better than the old era. While F9 is the weakest installment in the modern era, this movie is such an underrated gem. I can't believe people say this is the worst Fast and Furious movie. Have you seen Tokyo Drift? Tokyo Drift Tokyo Drift is way better in comparison to this. what I like about F9 is that this movie is how big and entertaining this movie is. This movie is really big in scale. It has some of the most ridiculous stuff, or probably the most ridiculous stunts in the franchise. And although people would say that it's too much, it still manages to be entertaining for me. Like John Jacob is a great villain, and I actually get now why Dom Jacob and forget and literally forgotten him as his brother. It makes a lot more sense now. The action scenes are really good, and yeah, although while this movie isn't perfect, this movie is flawed. It has a lot of flaws. In fact, there might have been a flaw I forgot to mention in my initial review. F9, I have a soft spot for F9. It's really enjoyable. I don't. I mean, I feel like I don't know why people suddenly just take this movie way too seriously and they forgot that this franchise was supposed to be dumb fun. So yeah, underrated film. Coming number six is The Fate of the Furious. One of the most entertaining Fast and Furious franchises. But yeah, yeah, sure. I will admit this is probably one of the dumbest plot concepts in the Fast and Furious franchise. Having Dom betray everyone just to work for Cypher, no, not a good concept. And they did Dom's character really dirty. That it's hard to get over it. But besides those things, the Fate of Furious is really entertaining. Had my eyes glued to the screen from start to finish. There's a lot of great action in this one. Although the middle act can be a bit slow, I was never bored throughout. My eyes were glued to the screen from start to finish. Cypher is a great villain. Although I did overpraise Cypher, calling her the best villain. No, but no, Cypher is not the Cypher is not the best Fast and Furious villain. Not like there are better Fast and Furious villains out there, but yeah, really enjoyed Cypher as well. She's a great villain. And also this movie has some great performances as well, especially Michelle Rodriguez as Letty, giving her best performance. And this movie actually has a bit of emotional moments as well, like when Dom reunited with his ex-wife, Elena with a baby, and then they shot Elena. And by the way, no, I love Vin Diesel's performance as well. Despite really disliking what they did with Dom, Vin Diesel's performance in this movie is really good. Like, I got no choice. Yeah, great acting right there. Yeah, really good acting. So yeah. Coming number five is Hobbs and Shaw. Yep, the one and only spin-off to Fast and Furious. Thank God this movie isn't hated, and people are saying this is one of the better films in the franchise. Thank God for that this movie isn't hated. I mean, isn't as hated as it would have been. I will admit though, I actually expected this to be the worst Fast and Furious franchise because this was a really bad idea on paper. Having a spin out to Hobbs and Shaw out of all characters, so it felt like a really bad idea. And this sounded like a total cash grab for the entire franchise. But turns out this franchise what turns out this movie actually works. Like it has actually ended up being in my top five favorite Fast and Furious movies. Now, this movie is more enjoyable than some of the other movies, even the ones that are ahead of this one, higher. But at the same time, there are some boring scenes, and man, like I can't believe Jason Statham's girlfriend, Madame M, was only in this movie for like 2 seconds in this one. Like she's probably she's honestly the most attractive character in the Fast and Furious. But the fact that she was barely in this movie, like at least she's in the poster or something. Like they literally marketed her to be the main character. How is she like barely in this movie? But this movie is really entertaining. Hobbs and Shaw, they're probably the best duo in the franchise. I just love their back and forth banter and their bickering, and when they work together, they're really good. Hattie is the standout of this movie, and we need more Vanessa Kirby in the franchise. And Brickta is a great villain, an awesome villain. Thank God there's no side villains. It's just one villain. And you're like, yeah, sure, this movie is stupid. This movie is ridiculous. It's absurd, but it's really entertaining. Hobbs and Shaw 2 and more Fast and Furious spin-off, please. Coming number four is everyone's favorite Fast and Furious movie, Fast Five. Yeah, I know y'all are shocked that this movie is only at number four, but who cares anyway? Um, Fast Five is still an excellent film, just like the others. What I love about this film is that this actually has a really good plot. About how a plot about how the family, um, one family tries to get freedom by doing a bank heist from a Brazilian terrorist. And I mean this movie literally made the franchise what it is today. And it really changed the franchise for the better. This is the movie that found its that actually was able to find its stride. That was able to find its style to it, and I really appreciate this movie for doing that. While at the same time, with having good plot, having some great action scenes as well, like so many great action scenes, especially the highway chase at the end. The characters are really good, and thank God, at least my favorite Fast and Furious character is in this movie. The movie that everyone says is the best one. So yeah, really enjoy this movie. Yeah, a great movie. I can see why it's people's favorite. It's really good. But there's just three more that I personally prefer. Coming number three is Fast and Furious 6. Yep, I enjoy this movie more than Fast 5. This is the final movie where Connor was fully in this movie, was entirely in this movie from start to finish, without having any hiccups, and he hasn't really died yet. But yeah, Fast and Furious 6 is really entertaining. And just like Fast 5, this movie actually has a really good plot, a very interesting plot at that. It's not a great plot, it's just rather a decent plot, but really, this movie is just such a blast. And yeah, this movie has some of the best and most ridiculous action scenes in the franchise. In fact, yeah, this is the movie that made the franchise what it is today. Everything that you see in this franchise all came from this film right here. The characters are really good, especially Giselle getting more screen time. And yeah, I'm the villain is great. And there's not much else to say. Fast and Furious 6, yeah, really good movie. Really dig it. Yeah. Coming number two is Furious 7. For the longest time, this was my favorite Fast and Furious movie from when I saw this movie in theaters until recently. But yeah, at least it's at number two now. But I still adore Furious 7. I mean, this movie is fantastic. Is it a perfect movie? No. Yeah, there was definitely an obvious clear link here, which is Digimon Hansu's villain character, but Furious 7 is this really good. I mean, it has some of the best action in the franchise. And it's one of the most entertaining in the franchise. The characters are really good, and I love that the addition of Ramsey. Deckard Shaw is one of the best Fast and Furious villains period, and yeah, just really enjoy this movie. And of course, well, the ending is probably the most unbeatable scene in the franchise, and there's no way a scene in the franchise could ever top that scene right there. Yeah, just this is a beautiful send off with See You Again playing in the background. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, this came so close. This came so close to being my favorite Fast and Furious movie, but it was just topped by one. And my number one favorite Fast and Furious movie is Fast X. Yep, I know recency bias here, but it's not the best made in the franchise, but it's just one I really enjoy the most. This movie has the biggest stakes in the franchise, putting all our characters in really big danger, and while at the same time having some really cool some amazing action that left me on the edge of my seat and really giving me goosebumps and chills, and a lot of scenes like and there are some emotional scenes as well, and having the crew be seen as criminals, being at their lowest point, is really good. Yes, it's not, even though it's the best Fast and Furious movie, it's not perfect, 100% perfect. I expected more from some characters, specifically Letty, but I just this movie walking out left me speechless. And this movie is mostly a setup to parts 2 and 3, but I don't care. I mean, this movie literally made me even more hyped for Fast X Part 2. And yeah, I forgot I mentioned this in my Fast and Furious, in my Fast X review, but it sucks that It sucks that Elle wasn't in it in this movie. I wish she was in it, but besides Elle besides Elle not being in this movie, and Letty being in a complete waste, I when this movie gets good, it gets really good, and that's why Fast X is controversially my number one favorite Fast and Furious movie. So also for my Fast and Furious ranking, what is your ranking as franchise? Do you agree with me that Fast X is the best and Tokyo Drift is the worst? Comment down below, like, subscribe, hit the notification bell, and stay tuned for my review on everything everywhere all at once. And also another project I plan to do. Don't know if I'll do it today or maybe later on in the future, but yeah. Bye guys.